The Houston Rockets are 4-1 in January so far. Jalen Green's having a hot start to the month. They're 7-1 total with Amin Thompson as a starter, and Reed Sheppard's going off in the G League right now. So Will and I have a bunch of topics we're going to discuss today. Very exciting. So stay tuned for this episode of the Bradeaux and Will Show.
All right, and welcome back to the episode of the Bradeaux and Will Show. Today, we're going to talk about a couple of different things. We got Jalen performing well in January. We got Reed Sheppard performing well in the G-League. Should Amin Thompson stay in the starting lineup? And then we're going to talk about how VanVleet's playing his new role really, really well for the Houston Rockets. But, let's start with Reed. I feel that's kind of the easiest topic to kind of go and just knock out the way. Talking about Reed Sheppard, Brad.
Yeah, so as we all saw, Reed Sheppard came out with 49 points, was 8 for 19 from three, shot over 50%. And that's his first game in the G League. He did what he was supposed to do. He was excited to go down there. Shout out to Sheppard on Twitter. He interviewed Reed, and Reed said, yeah, I was excited to go down there when they told me. And he made the most of his opportunity. Second game, a little bit slower. He had 18 points. I want to say he had 18, 7, and 5. Still hit 4 threes of his 11 attempts, but overall, he's averaging 33.5 so far. And for Reed Sheppard, my thought is, hey, what are they going to do with him when he comes back to the Rockets? They said they're going to bring him back this Sunday after Rio Grande Valley's 3-game homestand. And that could give them an opportunity to put Reed back in the same role he had before. He starts off the second quarter, gets a few minutes, and then usually if he played bad, Udoka would just go to Aaron Holiday. I would honestly go back to that and see how he does in that first stint and then work from there. If not, give him some more reps in the G League. But I'm very happy they sent him down. He did a great job. Wizards fans had tried him, and I'm happy he showed them up in that game. But, yeah, I think they should definitely play him some minutes. And their next game after Sunday, I want to say would be against Memphis. So I don't know if they do play him. It would be Memphis on Monday, again on the road, if not at home. I have to check. But we'll see what they do. But more so happy that he played well in that game. What would you say, Will? What do you think they should do?
I don't look at the G League as a demotion, especially for Reed. I look at it more of an opportunity to work on his game and build some confidence because he's playing on a team that's already very, very deep, and it's very difficult for him to get a lot of playing time on that very deep basketball team. And so I'd probably leave him there unless I have a guaranteed 15 to 20 minutes a night. Like the Aaron Holiday role, I think Aaron Holiday only played 10 minutes yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he did. He played 10 minutes yesterday. And if Reed's going to be playing 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, I don't see how that's more beneficial to him than just letting him stay in the G League and building up his confidence and, getting the touch the ball every possession, getting to really expand on his game. Because, we talk about Cam Whitmore. I don't think the G League worked for Cam because Cam Whitmore's problem is something he's not going to work on in the G League. Reed Sheppard's problem is something that he can work on the G League, which is just building his confidence and getting a rhythm down. And I don't think that you get that from Reed if he's playing 10 minutes a night. So if that's what the role he's going to play, I just keep him there, honestly. And, until maybe like post All-Star break, and then I'd probably bring him back so he can kind of watch the team ramp up for playoff time and maybe he can get some minutes there. But in terms of like anytime soon, I mean, I don't know what the plan is, but I'd leave him there if it was up to me.
Yeah, that's also a good point too. And that was a good point as well with Cam and Reed. Reed's whole issue was he just wasn't hitting his shots. And he goes down that first game, he's pulling everything, contested or not. He's hesitant sometimes in the league. So, yeah, once that confidence is all the way built up, the goal for him probably is just to shed minutes off of what Fred has been doing. He's playing a heavy amount of minutes. Reed's supposed to be able to eat into that. So, yeah, maybe they work him in slowly. If it starts with 12 and he's playing good, it works his way up to maybe 20-ish. But, yeah, I can see what you mean if it's only 10 to 12 minutes. But I'm sure Udoka has to start him somewhere. But, yeah, that's what we think on Reed. Again, happy he's playing well. Outside of that, I could kick it to you on the point guard topic. Fred VanVleet has been playing his role very well. You've been vocal about it on Twitter. If you want to share your thoughts.
Yeah, I want to keep the same energy when I'm critical of somebody. I also want to be very loud when I think they're playing really, really well. And I was very critical of Fred VanVleet, not just this season, but last season too, honestly. and he's been playing really, really well in 2025. We're gonna talk about Jalen in a second. I do think that like you can't buy the turnaround of one of our backcourt members without also buying the turnaround of the other one. 'Cause I think they're tied to each other. I think that Jalen Green elevating his level of play is what has allowed for it to kind of take a step back and allow Jalen to have more on-ball usage. And then at first taking that step back, this was his ideal role, the entire time. He was never supposed to be playing the James Harden, Trae Young, high usage. That's not his game. He's not good at that. What he's good at is kind of taking that step back, letting the young guys run the show, and stepping up when the team needs him to. And that's one thing I'll say that I've noticed a lot from Fred is his usage and his field goals have gone down. I know he took, I think it was 13 yesterday. Yeah, he took 13 yesterday, which
I'm looking.
yeah, it was 13. And honestly, like he's been taking like there's been a couple games recently where he's taking like 7 shots or 8 shots. Like he's not putting up 17 shots a game. He's taking very much in the flow of the offense. He'll still have 1 or 2 shots a game where it's like, all right, I probably wouldn't have shot that one. But at the same time, it's kind of one thing that I'm learning to kind of live with, just like with Dylan, is like I think you kind of have to live with Dylan and Fred taking 1 or 2 bad shots a game because of what else they're bringing to the table. And then like Fred, of those 1 or 2 bad shots a game, he ends up making like one of them anyways. And so like it's a bad shot, but it went in. It is what it is. If I have to just deal with that bad shot, I'll deal with it. Outside of that, though, I think he's, like I said, he's doing a good job of getting off the ball. I think he's doing a really good job of keeping the ball moving. It's not sticking in his hands as much. His assists, he only had 4 yesterday, but he had 12. What was that? Wednesday when we played. Who do we play on Wednesday?
Yeah,
The
the
Wizards. Yeah, he had
Wizards.
12 against the Wizards on Wednesday. He's moving the ball a lot more. Like I said, he's getting off the ball and letting Jalen and Shingo run the show. And I do think that like I think some people are gonna try to correlate it to like Fred is getting away from the ball, and that's what it is. I think it's the other way around. I think guys stepping up has allowed Fred to get off the ball.
Yep.
And so I love that he's embracing that role. And I kind of land my plane by saying that this is one of the reasons why I've been saying for a while now, I think it's easier to replace Fred in theory than what it actually is, because there are things that Fred brings to the team that don't necessarily show up in the box score. And if Fred plays this ideal version of his role, which he's been playing so far recently, like to me, that's better. And that's gonna sound crazy. It's gonna be like the hot take if you remove the context from it. I think that version of Fred is better within the context of what this Rockets team needs than what Jimmy Butler will provide. And that's why, like, amongst any of the reasons, I wouldn't trade Fred for Jimmy. Because I think that what Fred brings to this team when he's playing this role, when he's spacing the ball, when he's making smart decisions with the basketball in his hands, when the big play he made yesterday was Jalen Green turned the ball over a couple of times, Shingun, they missed some free throws, teams kind of getting sped up. Fred said, "Give me the ball." He very calmly walked the ball across half court, got the mismatch, pull up midi, and that was kind of like the shot that iced the game for the Rockets. And like that's what we need him to do. We don't need him to try to save us the whole night. Just like if Jaden and Shingun don't have it going, somebody else doesn't have it going, that's when it's your time to step up, be the veteran leader on the team. And that's what he did. And I think that those are like little things like that add up and are super important for what this Rockets team needs. And so yeah, like if he can continue to buy into this role, it does require that Jalen and Shingun keep playing at the level that they are playing at. But if all those keys start coming together, start fitting, I mean, Fred's playing well, and I want to make sure that we're equally as loud on the praise as we are when we're criticizing him.
Yeah, and Will, once you say the ball has been moving a lot better, or like with Fred itself, like he's swinging the rock. I've seen a lot more skip passes and all those kinds of things with him. He's looked a lot better. His shots are down 3 a game. His usage is down this month. And yeah, I do think he's played a lot better, a lot smarter. He's not taking a lot of those bad pull-up threes. And if you look at his numbers in January, they're not eye-popping at all. He's shooting 29% from 3. It's more so just the processing. Even the assists are down as a whole. Outside of that Wizards game, he had 12 assists. But primarily his defense has been really solid. He's averaging, and I wanted to look this up for you really quick. I have it pulled up right here. He's averaging a hell of a amount of steals right now.
So
Over
yeah,
3 this
yesterday.
month. Yeah, over 3 this month. He had 6 in the first game of the month, 4 a few times. But yeah. So he's been playing really well on both sides of the ball. So I had to give him props there. And again, as Will mentioned, it really does start with Jalen Green when it comes to Fred. A lot of us don't like that. He's heavy ball dominant. He holds the ball the whole possession and kicks it to Şengün at like the last second and kind of wastes the whole possession, especially if nothing is there. However, if Jalen Green is playing like he's playing in this month of basketball, as we've seen, they'll start the game. Jalen's got the rock. Jalen's running the show. That's what it's always supposed to be. You know, Fred came in just to be that veteran guy and get Houston to start winning. But Jalen, this is what Jalen's supposed to look like. And he's ball dominant, and it's just him and Alperen Şengün show, you know, with the men chiming in. And we're going to talk about the men later too. But it's good to see Jalen picking it up. And I can transition to Jalen outside of Fred. Because Fred, again, I love what he does as a complementary player to the young core of Houston. You know, he can take a backseat easily if the young guys are going to run a show like they've been doing. So props to Fred for playing that role well. And then Jalen, yes, started the month off with 5 straight 20-point games, averaging 27.6 points. Very efficient, over 40% from 3. I mean, on over 10 attempts a night too. I've loved what he's been doing. He's hitting the mid-range shot. At one point, he was first in the month in mid-range shots made. He's doing it from all 3 levels. Again, you know, with Jalen, the story has always been inconsistency. And typically we haven't seen this from him until March. He's always an after All-Star break kind of player. And now, you know, he's kicked it into high gear in January. He started off October very hot and then kind of inconsistent. But yes, now looks again the part, you know, that you want. You know, a lot of guys will go from, hey, man, what are we finna trade, you know, when we get to the offseason? You know, we looking at these packages, we looking at these deals. But again, as Will always says, the number one goal is just to build within, you know, build with what you have. That's the number one goal. And then if that doesn't work, then you look for trades. And what Jalen is showing right now, that's a guy you don't move. You don't think about moving a guy like that. And it's great to see him kick it into high gear, especially when you don't have Jabari Smith Jr. for a month who broke his hand in shoot around. I hope he's back soon. Tari, who's got that lingering leg discomfort. We don't know when he's coming back. And even then, you know, they start the month 4-1. You know, you have to praise Jalen Green for scoring the way he's been scoring, and everybody just for locking in. So, yeah, we can kick it to, if not Amen Thompson. Yeah, let's kick it to Amen Thompson because, again, we're 4-1 this month with all the injuries. Amen even missed 2 games with suspension. But now Amen comes back in. The Rockets get 2 big wins over solid teams, the Lakers and the Grizzlies. And there's a conversation to be had when Jabari gets back. What are the Houston Rockets going to do? They're 7-1 with Amen in the starting lineup, and he's averaging around 18 and 11 as a starter. It's hard to take him out. There's a big difference, and it showed in that first quarter yesterday too. So, Will, what do you think they should do when Jabari comes back? Because personally, with me, I love Jabari, what he's been bringing. Again, last 21 games, shooting 41% from 3, 1.5 blocks. Efficiency is really good. And ideally, if I were to take out a starter, it wouldn't be Jabari off my first choice, but it just kind of happened the way that he got hurt. Houston may get hot. So what would you do?
Dylan Brooks has kind of cooled off a little bit since his hot start of the season. So I'd probably monitor him a little bit. And I mean, I don't know if Ime would ever bring Dylan off the bench, considering he is the vet. And that's kind of the guy that he brought over. But if Dylan is going to kind of cool off the way he is, I think he's kind of perfect to play either the 2 or 3 off the bench. But Dylan has played, like I've said a couple of times, I think he had an argument at one point in time for the best, like in terms of who played the best on this individual season. I think that he has, like, I think he was at one point in time in that argument for one of the best players on this individual season. So, like, he's kind of earned his spot starting lineup, and he is really, really good. He had a bad game for us yesterday, but he's been really good. He still picks up the best teams, posting player full court. He was guarding Anthony Davis against the Lakers. Was that Monday? And so, yeah, he's really, really good. If we're gonna buy into Dylan Brooks, which I'm fine doing, I'm fine with Dylan Brooks to start. Yeah, man, I'm gonna start over Jabari. You can honestly, you can pick who you want. I'll tell you this much. Obviously, he can't start over Şengün, and I don't think that a men's handle is there for him to play point guard just yet. I know that's like the hot take. I'm a Min Thompson fan, it's my favorite player, but his handle is not there yet to toke up point guard minutes, especially considering if you look at the role that Fred played yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
A men can't do that, unfortunately. That's not where he's at right now with his game. So I don't think he can start over Fred. If Jalen Green's going to be playing the way that he's playing so far, obviously you got to have that guy out there. So it kind of leaves one of Bill and Abari at that point in time. And quite honestly, I mean, you could pick who you wanted. I don't care. You just Amin is one of the 3 best players on this team. There's no way he comes off the bench anymore. It should not happen for the rest of the season. Pick who you want, honestly. Start the man. Do not let him come off the bench ever again. So long as he's wearing a Houston Rockets uniform, unless it's like time for him to retire, he should never be coming off the bench no more. And that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Have you seen what he's averaging this month?
I have. It's what, like 18, 11, something like that. Like 2 or 3 assists.
This month he's averaging. Yeah, he's averaging like 17.7 points, 12.7 rebounds, 4 assists. But what popped out to me was he's averaging 39 minutes, right? He's not getting that off the bench, regardless of how you want to swing it. You can make sure he gets 30 minutes off the bench, but it's telling how much he needs to play when he's in the starting lineup. He's going to get those extended minutes, and they probably will just leave Jabari on the bench. And I personally, again, I wouldn't have advocated for this before this stretch, but maybe going into next year, I bring Dylan off the bench in a really, high.
Oh, this should be his last year starting, in my opinion. I wouldn't trade him, but for spacing purposes, I think he has to come off the bench.
Yeah, you have to keep one of your only shooters on the team for sure. I would bring him off the bench. Jabari comes in as that shooter in Dylan's role, and Amin can be that defender in Dylan's place. But yeah, it's a good conversation to have, a good problem again for the Rockets to have, all the depth that they have, the decisions that they need to make in the coming months. But yeah, shout out to Amin. We also had, well, who else did we have to talk about? I'm over here blanking. Was that our 4 topics?
I believe that was our 4.
Outside of those four, I want to give love to Jae'Sean Tate. Jae'Sean Tate has filled in Tari Eason's role perfectly. We call him team cap in the playback spaces. I love what he brings to the team. He's been the longest tenured player on the Rockets. Again, always been that gritty dog. He's hitting the occasional 3-pointer in the corner, looking like PJ at times. And again, he's played that role perfectly. I just want to give him his flowers before we closed. Did you have anything you want to add?
I'll kind of echo what you said about Tate. I love the guy who plays larger than what he actually is. That's one of the reasons why I know we compared him to PJ Tucker, but I mean, PJ Tucker might unironically be like my favorite power forward ever. Like I love PJ Tucker because 6'5" dude who would go out there and guard. It didn't matter if we asked him to guard point guards all the way through center. Sometimes he played center for us and was out there guarding like Anthony Davis and Nikola Jokic. Like he was guarding everyone for us. And then on the other hand, spacing out, die for loose balls. He died for a rebound. Like I loved everything about the way PJ Tucker played. And Jae'Sean Tate is kind of like from that same mold of guys who it doesn't matter. And honestly, like funny enough, I can't think of outside of maybe Amin, and I think Tate's probably a better interior defender. I don't think there's a single guy on this roster who I have more faith in guarding 1 through 5 than Jae'Sean Tate. I think Tate would do a better job on centers because I think he has a better lower center of gravity than Amin. So I think he would do a good job guarding like a Jokic better than Amin would. And then like we saw a Tate guarded JJJ yesterday, and that was one of the biggest reasons why the Rockets were able to kind of get the game at the very end. Is he had Tate? I mean, he had JJJ and like Rikers towards the end of the game, and so. Yeah, I just love what Tate brings to this basketball team. And I said it on Twitter. On one hand, I'm kind of conflicted because I do think that he's too good to be DNP'd every night. But on the other hand, it's like he's so good when he does play for us, and he's been in from the jump. And like obviously everybody on the team loves him. He's a great teammate. It's kind of like I want him to be able to play, but I also want to keep him on the Rockets. So yeah, I don't know. It's a good problem to have. I'll put it like that. But that's all I have to say about Tate.
Yeah, since his team option is up at the end of the year, I figured they'd probably try to move him, especially since he wasn't getting any burn. But again, with that Tari injury,
honestly, because if I'm trading Tate, I'd only want to trade him for salary, like a salary filler. I would not trade Tate for seconds at this point. So it wouldn't shock me if they extend Tate on like a 1 or 2 year, $8 million, $9 million, somewhere in that ballpark, just to preserve his tradable salary.
Yeah, and again, that's a guy that has some value in the trade too. He's a solid player. Any NBA team that has the spacing to do it would be lucky to have a Jae'Sean Tate. Again, that's a guy I would love to play any night, any given night. It's just with the Rockets, guys I have right now, he really can't see that 10-man rotation. But happy he's stepping up. And that's honestly all we had for this episode. We'll come back soon again with some more analysis. Happy to see these Rockets as the 2nd seed. We could talk about later in another episode if they could stay in the top 2, 3, or 4, to the close of the season. But this was an episode of the Bradeaux Show. Again, we always appreciate you guys for tapping in. So check us out next time.